Hello, Warhammer fans. This is Remington. Due to a complaint about the fact that the intro song of the Andy and Rem show, written by myself, puts viewers off watching the show, me and Andy have decided not to do it today because this one viewer said, well, he couldn't get past the song, so he's never actually watched the show, but the song put him off. So I'm sure you'll agree that this sort of format sucks. Hey! It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on a Tuesday night. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. Yes, we're talking about Age of Sigmar and everything else that is cool. We're talking about Warhammer Fantasy. It's easy to learn the rules. Come on, it's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on a Tuesday night.
Well, after that criticism, it seemed you raised your game a bit there. That was almost an Andy-like note you hit at the end there. That was fairly impressive. You've broadened your range a bit in the face of such harsh criticism. It should be pointed out, it was just that one guy on Facebook that couldn't get past the song. So I think we can live without that little slice of viewership, can't we?
It's fair to say there's always one party pooper, isn't there? So I'm sure we like to put this show out for the masses.
We do, and it has mass appeal. It has been proven by the viewing figures. So
That's
that
right.
one lone voice of dissent is not going to be enough to put us off our tried and tested format that has served us so well.
Check out the figures for Warhammer Weekly. They've shot up since we've not been broadcasting this show. Because people have got nowhere else to turn. They miss Warhammer Fantasy, Age of Sigmar content. And if they can't get it here, they'll desperately search in vain somewhere else. And they're just not getting the fix. So welcome back, everyone. We've been away for a little while. Andy's been ill. There's not been that much to talk about. I've been doing lots of shows. And hence why, you know, my voice is kind of on fire at the minute. So, yeah, we're back.
So you use your professional music career as a warm-up act, basically, just to get your voice ready for the Andy and Rem show when you can unleash the full potential of your inner sound.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, well, let's see who's in the audience, shall we? It's been a few weeks since the last show, as Mr. Remington just mentioned, for various reasons. So let's see who's in there, shall we? We've got Abnormal, Amber Cookie 2006. So that's a new name, I think. Andrew Starr, Andrew Wade. So a couple of quality names there. We've got Authentics Studio, Bazooka J Rambo, Dan Vaughan, Dave Dog, or Dave Doggy, or Dave Doge, Dave Nat, so a couple of Daves as well, Demon _Lizard _from _out _space, Dice Minish Paint Guy, Gloom Dreddy, Graham Rigg, Green Stuff Games, John Mills, Lawrence Jameson, Mark Carriger, MC1 Gamer, Mickey Jenber, Mike Springs, Brookman, Raphael Marge, Sebastian Blau, Skeleton Flower, Stu Rat, YouTube Newbie, and William Matthews. So that is quite a packed house already, and it's shooting up as we go along, of course. I'm sure we're going to have a few first-time viewers who perhaps didn't realise that this used to be a weekly show, then every other week, and then I think this is the only... it's been about a month, hasn't it, since the last one? It's the start of July we did the previous show.
That's right. And, you know, there's podcasts falling by the wayside. Heel and Hammer, the very popular Warhammer podcast, is now finished after 10 years of running, you know? So it's not easy to keep something going for a long time unless you're like an ultra nerd.
Well, anyone who's getting withdrawal symptoms from that particular podcast, I believe there is a shoe repair podcast called Heel and Hammer that you could probably look up that could meet that particular fix.
You're nasty, you are. You're nasty. So what if you want to join the chat? What do you have to do?
If you want to join the chat, you have to join the chat. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. There's a big chat box right there.
What? So you don't have to subscribe to the Andy and Rem private Facebook group then?
Well, that's not necessarily for chat purposes, but that is a very exclusive club indeed, the Andy and Rem Show Facebook group, which you should be a member of if you're not already. And you can get your high-quality Age of Sigmar or fantasy-related miniatures showcased at the end of each show. We've got quite a few of those to go through today at some point. But after a bit of a drought, the barrel was truly worn thin all the way through to the ground, and we were kind of slurping up the juices from the soil at one stage. However, the 40k barrel has been knocked over a little bit, and we've got a bit of fresh, juicy AoS goodness. So shall we dive straight into that then? Because if we get back on the old screen share here, let's go straight to the GW website, and let's see what they've got at the moment. So in the new releases section, the one thing everyone was clamoring for a very long time: start collecting Fire Slayers. We'll look at exactly what's in that in a moment, as well as the other start collecting boxes.
We've had people screaming out for this, haven't they? Why aren't Fire Slayers in like a discounted box? And
the rest of this stuff is really just repacks, so we don't need to talk too much about that. The one interesting thing to note is that if you try to order a Magma Droth now, it'll tell you that they're going to send you the Start Collecting Fire Slayers box with 10 of those guys in it. So you can't actually buy the Magma Droth on its own anymore.
Oh, I see.
So if you're in your local shop and you see the Magma Droth in there, probably wise to avoid it unless they're throwing in these 10 dudes with it as well. But we're not going to get to that. That's the most exciting one, so we'll save that till last. Let's start with the Beast Claw Raiders Start Collecting box, because you've got quite a few Beast Claw Raiders, haven't you, Mr. Rem? You're our resident expert on all things ogrish.
I have, actually, and then I believe I sent you a picture, and people are asking in the chat about my new glass cabinet of love. Which
you have, and we will get to that later on.
Yes, we'll get some flashes of that. So what do I think about this Start Collecting?
Yes, £50.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear the contents?
I can see the contents there.
Stonehorn, Mournfang pack made up of 4 Ogres. So there you go. You got 5 models in there for £50.
That was quick, wasn't it? So is it just a Stonehorn? Can you make that into Thunder Tusk?
Yes, you can.
And that's got 2 riders on it, hasn't it? That one.
They are quite different in appearance and also in their profile as well, although both are quite tasty on the tabletop.
I'm just wondering, because there's not a picture of that variant, you see, so I'm thinking, do they only give you the one option? It's got to be the Stonehorn.
Well, I'm pretty sure you can build both. Let's see what it says here. Yeah, you can assemble it as the Thunder Tusk optionally, yes.
Well, the Thunder Tusk has 2 riders on it, so that means you get an extra model there. So it's actually, you know, it's 6 ogres there. You get not just 5. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good deal, especially if you're getting a little bit of discount. So, you know, you've got to remember when this model first come out, I think it was probably like 33 quid. Now it's 36 on its own. So the Mournfang Cavalry, it used to be, what, 20 odd quid? 22
yeah, aren't they about 30 for 2?
That much?
Something ridiculous like
it might
that.
have been even £28.
Maybe.
Something like that. But yeah, it's a very good deal, that is.
Definite savings to be had.
And they're monsters. Well, they are literally monsters, but they're monsters on the table. I'd love a Thunder Tusk, to be fair. But I have a big army as it stands already. So
you've got quite a few big armies that could probably do with a bit of paintwork before you were to get your hands on anything else, I would say.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the next one then. When it decides, there we go. Okay, so Demons of Slaanesh. So Slaanesh has not been completely neglected. They have their own Start Collecting box now, and there's quite a few more models in this one. Let's see what it says here. Did I just see the word depraved? I think I did. There we go, depravity. The depths of depravity. What a wonderful phrase we have there.
It's funny how your eyes are attracted to certain words, isn't it, Andy?
Yeah, whenever I see the word depraved, my eyes kind of zoom in on it as it's passing by. So you get a Chariot of Slaanesh, 5 Seekers, and 10 Demonettes. So you've got 16 models there with various options as well. So what do we think about this? This looks like a bit of a bargain as well.
Yeah, these are wicked to paint. I mean, I know about the Seekers because I've got some Marauders on Seekers, Chaos Marauders, and they're brilliant. So they're lovely models to paint. I've never painted a Slaaneshi Demonette, though, to be fair. I'm just thinking how they managed to live their lives with giant crab hands for claws.
Well, if you've seen Edward Scissorhands, it's probably slightly comparable to that, where everyday tasks become very, very difficult.
I mean, how would you undress?
With it being Slaanesh, they probably find a way.
Maybe they're just like, do you know, like strippers have like, they just pull on the thing and then it all comes off in one.
Yes, they could have those kind of the little buttons almost that just fasten up the whole outfit that are easy rip away. Or maybe they have kind of one of those Hulk Hogan shirts that's just an easy rip, so you just have to grip each side of it and pull.
Yeah.
Anyway,
see, this is one of the models when I first saw it. You know, the big chariot thing.
Yes.
I thought that's amazing. It's just like a giant meat grinder getting pulled with like sexy women with whips. What more could you ask for? But then I just thought, do you know what? That is probably a right bugger to assemble and paint. I'm not sure about
that screams sub-assembly to me.
It's cool, isn't it? It's like, see, that this idea first came from Chaos Dwarves, I think. They used to have a roller, didn't they? A grinder roller. They had it in Blood Bowl too. But this is like a cosmic version of it.
Cosmic indeed, and for only £50, you can't beat that value, or can you? Let's have a look. Start collecting Fire Slayers. So, Magmadroth, and just to confirm here, 10 Volkite Berserkers. So the Magmadroth, of course, can be built in any of the different forms, and then you still have a couple of models potentially you can build on foot as well out of that kit. So very, very good value.
Just quickly back to Slaanesh, it's fair to say that Slaaneshi demons don't use Tinder, they use Grindr.
They may well do. Which app is the most crab hand friendly, though? Anyone out there? Which dating app?
I think GW staff have just been to strip joints after work. That's how they come up with the Fly Slayers idea in these Slaaneshi demons.
You think that's how they came up with Fire Slayers?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you recall, but we were complaining about Fire Slayers having a significant lack of butt cheek visibility. Because as you know, in any kind of mostly naked dwarves, you expect to have at least a little bit of cheek, and I'm afraid the Fire Slayers did not deliver on that front, or should I say on that back.
Now, I've only painted one Fire Slayer, and that was the one that you get in the Silver Tower, which is actually very enjoyable to paint. I had a great time painting that, but my one issue with these models was, why do they have like engraved tattoos? Why did they need to do that? Why didn't you just have like optional tattoos to put on? Because they just look a bit like fiddly, don't they? They're like runes.
Well, these aren't really tattoos. This is just your gold embedded in their skin. Or gold.
I mean, so you could literally just, you know, if you were like a goblin or something, would you just want to carve that out of his skin, wouldn't you?
Well, if you're busy doing that, then he's probably busy cutting your head off while you're trying to chisel his little embedded piece of gold out of his nipple. Now, this guy here I'm sure this cost about £50 on its own, so they're basically just throwing in 10 Volkite Berserkers for free. So if you were ever thinking about getting into Fire Slayers, now would be the time.
Yeah, you're talking, I mean, for less than £100, you could get a decent AoS force, couldn't you? You buy this, and then you buy like the specialist guys that you get 5 of in a box. And you don't, and maybe buy a hero, but you get extra heroes with this box, don't you? Because there's 3.
Yes, you do. Because you have different options. I'm not sure whether you get enough pieces to build all 3 of them, or whether you could only build maybe 2, because maybe some of them share a torso or something like that. But you can definitely get at least 1 extra guy. Anyone who's got the Magmadroth kit and can confirm how many extra models you can make out of it, then let us know.
I love that model. That's flipping brilliant. I'd have him standing on some sort of kind of a plinth, though, you know, to make him look taller.
Yeah, they do need a little bit of help. They could do with some maybe like high heels.
Or like on a dragon's head or something. We've got a couple of people in the chat said, Bazooka J Rambo has said, Mickey Genver, you can model them. Model new Fire Slayer boxes or Slaanesh. Mike Carragher says, I've painted 140 Fire Slayers and it gets repetitive.
I can imagine it would, especially if you use the same hairstyle on all of them. Oh, we've got confirmation here from Green Stuff Games that you can actually build all 3 of the characters. So there you go. So you get one on the Droth, and you have 2 separately. You could even magnetize them, so you could mix and match which one goes up there, I imagine. Well, very good value indeed, and it's something people have been waiting for a very, very, very long time. So, new start collecting boxes, always welcome, and not much else to discuss on the new releases front.
So did you, hold on a minute, Andy, you're a dwarf player, aren't you?
Well, they're only repacks with different bases, I would imagine.
But don't you want to get some Fire Slayers?
Oh, Fire Slayers, well, they were going to be on my list had the Caradron Overlords not come out, but I've got so many of those to paint, I don't think I'd be getting around to Fire Slayers anytime soon.
And you like armor, don't you? You like, you know, 3-up saves. Just scroll down a bit, Andy. I've noticed them Wild Riders, something's amiss.
Oh?
£25? That's gone up, that has.
Has it? How much were they before?
Sure, it's gone up. I think they were £22.50 or £23.
Well, you get round bases now. That's the price you pay for safety. Never again are you going to lose an eye on one of those pesky square base corners.
Right, yeah, so they have been repacked then. It took me bloody like a year and a half to paint 5 Sisters of Thorn. But they are really good. They are well painted, I have to admit. But they're really fiddly. Really fiddly. You know, if you want to do them well, getting those little details in. Basically, for me, Andy, you know, I know this is an early confession, but it's not telling anything you don't know. Since Warhammer Total War come out, every time I play a faction, I want to buy models from that faction.
That is not a secret.
As confirmed today, I've just been doing my 3rd Bretonnian campaign with Ulbrick, and it's very difficult when you're playing on very hard as well. But it's made me want to buy some Bretonnians for the first time ever. And I've been scouring eBay, and they're very expensive, but I managed to land me some Bretonnian peasant archers.
The good thing about Bretonnians, in theory, as long as you don't just have endless archers and men-at-arms, if you actually get some knights, you shouldn't really get bored painting them if you do each one with its own individual heraldry and style. As long as you're not hoping to do an entire army in one fell swoop.
All I'm saying, Andy, is good luck getting any kind of knights, because they're well expensive now on the second-hand market. Really expensive. One getting starting box, which when it used to come out was like 50 quid. It's just sold for like £85. Another one's gone for £110. They're really hard to get. So, don't know if anyone wants to, like, you know, send me some Bretonnian knights to paint up. That'd be really cool, you know. I'd love that.
So, before we go on to the next screen sharing related topic, first of all, let's have a look at the chat, because someone was asking how Slaanesh crab-handed warriors actually undertake basic household and, let's face it, personal hygiene tasks. And I would say with great difficulty, unless they have Slaaneshi slaves that perform those functions, the ones that haven't become quite so snippy in the hands department. Maybe they have nurses on hand to deal with their intimate matters, perhaps. Who's to say? Let's see. So someone was saying that Slaanesh armies are very, very fast in the game. Yes, they are, which isn't what I would like to see if I was lining up with my Caradron Overlords, because I would just like to shoot them to bits before they got anywhere near me. But it seems like a slim chance of that happening. Let's see. Anything else juicy in the chat right now? Anything that's suitable for broadcast, I should say.
Well, we're just talking about Bretonnians here, like the Grail Knights. They're just outrageously expensive. The Grail Relinque, which is the model that I really want. Out of all the Bretonnian things, I've always wanted the Grail Relinque, and I didn't buy it at the time. And now they're like gold dust, them things. And also, of course, Questing Knights. Some of the best sculptures that's ever been produced for those 5 knights, all individual. And I think I've missed the boat on them babies. I really, really wanted them. So if anyone's got some they want to sell to me maybe, or do a swapsy, let me know, man, because, you know.
Now, we've got one talking point that I put to the Facebook world on the Andy and Rem Show Facebook group. I think it was yesterday, as I was calculating how many games of each system I've played in the last couple of years since Age of Sigmar was released. Ooh. And let's go through what people are saying there. And anyone who didn't answer that, in the comments, if you want to put in how many games of Age of Sigmar you played, compared perhaps to other systems. So, in fact, before I tell you mine, Mr. Rem, do you have a rough number of how many games of Age of Sigmar you've ever played in your life?
About 8. Is that a lot?
Let's just linger on the fact that Mr. Remington, the voice of authority.
No, I've never said that. Come on. That's supposed to be you.
You constantly claim to have this kind of tactical acumen that's up there with the finest serious podcasters.
Yeah.
And are you saying now that this is all a sham and you've only actually played 8 games?
Listen, I'm naturally a tactical genius, you know. But I've played with multiple armies. Like, a lot of people are just saying they've got 30-ish, or YouTube Newbie even said he's played 220 games. But
I think that's a lie.
Each one of those 8 games I've played have been with different armies. So my knowledge is broad.
It's broad, but it's like a little children's pool, really, isn't it, compared to a diving pool?
Nothing wrong with broads. Broads are good.
So I didn't say anything. I wanted to leave the camera on your awkward reaction for a second.
Bugger you are. You put me in the. You make me look bad all the time. You do.
How could I possibly do that? Just because I have the power of deciding where the camera is at any given time. Okay, so I calculate how many games I've played because pretty much all of them made it into battle reports, and it came to something like 27 games of Age of Sigmar, which is round about 1 a month since release-ish. So I think that's reasonable, considering I haven't played any tournaments, and there's very few people that I know around here that actually play it. So some of those will be hangout games, of course, played over the internet.
Yeah, you see.
And to compare to other systems, Kings of War, it's looking like somewhere around 90, but that is, without tournaments, it would be about equal to Age of Sigmar, but I have been to a lot of Kings of War tournaments. I think I've been to about 15. And
you've been playing it an extra year.
But mainly I've been playing Kings of War in the last couple of years, since Age of Sigmar came out. I hadn't played that much prior to that, because the Kings of War 2nd edition came out round about the same time as Age of Sigmar hit. So I've also played about 5 40k games in the last couple of years, and probably about 15 games of Dead Zone, and not much else. I think of my Relics playing days were dwindling down by the time Age of Sigmar hit, so I probably only got a couple of games of that in over the last 2 years, and not at all in the last year. So if we had any serious comments in there.
Yeah, Dave Nat
said
he's had 100 games.
Sounds reasonable. Any kind of semi-competitive player could expect to play that many over the course of a couple of years. Let's see. So Nick Trajano on Facebook has played about 24 in the last couple of years. Bazooka J Rambo is in there as well and has played 0 games despite being in the chat every week. Has yet to play a game of Age of Sigmar at all.
Mike Brookman says he's probably played about 25 to 30 games, counting skirmish. This is any kind of competitive, right? Semi-competitive.
Yep, any kind of game whatsoever, including skirmish.
See, this I can see where you're going with this, Andy. Because if you're on the same wavelength as me, you're thinking, why do we need a General's Handbook 2 already after 1 year?
Well, that may be a point that we bring up in a minute, but it's also we're getting a general feel for whether our audience are in the same kind of boat we're in terms of number of games played, or whether we have any really hardcore competitive 5,000 game people in here.
Green Stuff Game says 4, if you count the game of skirmish you had with you, Andy.
That was a very, very entertaining game, which is a battle report, so I'm not going to give away the result.
Mike Carragher says he's played about 50, but there's quite a few tournaments in there bulking those numbers up.
Yet tournaments, it's reasonable though, because going to tournaments is a great way of encountering new opponents, new armies, different builds, Because generally, when you're playing against one person, they're not going to have every single model in a particular range for an army. They usually stick with the same kind of stuff. So going to tournaments, you're exposed to a whole new world of ideas. And so also, I definitely recommend it for any game system.
They'll stick with the same kind of tactics as well. Demon Lizard from Outer Space says he played about 8 or 9 games. John Mills says he's not played any, but hoping to change in the near future. G3XE says only 2 have matched play, but 10 in open play.
Well, we're breaking it down like that, are we?
Andrew Starr says about 50. It's 98%. That's 98% of his gaming activity in the last 2 years. So,
yeah,
it was.
We've got quite a lot more on the Facebook page here because some of these numbers are shockingly low. So we've got Dan Vaughan on Facebook, 2 games. Mickey Genvet, 0 games. Michael Nichols, 3 games, and follows up with feel sad for my lack of playtime. We shall feel sad indeed. Josh Dean, 2. Sam Jones, 10. Let's see who else commented on Age of Sigmar games. Mr. Jeremy Warlander apparently played tons early on, but then kind of moved away from it recently, but still sticks with the show because it's a source of pure entertainment regardless of your current gaming habits. Put it exactly like that, but I'm paraphrasing. Timothy Lind said 150 games-ish, which is a substantial amount. Let's see. Ricardo, 11 games of Age of Sigmar. Paul, or Powell, should I say, 15. Any others on here? Skeleton Flower, between 5 and 8-ish. Bruce Lim, around 40. Oh, here's a nice high number from Jim McPherson, about 80 or 90. So there you go, there's a juicy number. Mark Shoemaker, close to 70 or 80. Michael Boyd, 50 plus. So we do have quite a range here. We don't have any of the really hardcore competitive. I've played 3,752 games and won 90% of them, and then posing with all their tournament trophies and medals. We don't seem to have too many of those in there. But we do range from the people that don't play at all and are only into the hobby and only watch this show for the incredible entertainment value and the untold levels of charisma that spew forth out of the screen and the speakers. And then we also have people that are here for tactical tips, but those people probably in the wrong place, I would say.
But I think there has been a surge over the last 6 months or so in gamey players coming back into the game, or at least being very active and vocal about the rules and changing things up and becoming more competitive. So I predict in the next couple of years, Age of Sigmar is going to become much more, meta game and all that kind of competitive talk and people knowing the best builds inside out. I think it's going to become more like that now. We had a couple of years of fun. Now it's getting serious.
Well, if you really don't like the idea of people forming the ultimate meta-killing lists, then you should be pleased that General's Handbook 2 is coming, because the status quo is going to be seriously broken up as the balance is completely redone and new points values on everything, new faction abilities and so on. That's going to mix things up nicely. So it's going to take them another few months to get their heads around it, isn't it? So if you want to play against any ultra-competitive players, now might be a good time. Or when the new book hits, immediately play against those people, because you might be on kind of an even footing before they've really drilled down into the stats in their mind and put together the ultimate winning combo.
No, Dave Nat says, yeah, I have to disagree with Rem. Of course, I welcome any criticism. I get it daily in my life. So, yeah, why do you disagree? Please write and tell me. Until they update the rules for the Squig Gobber.
Surely it's going to be repointed, so you actually gain 20 points for taking it in your list. Instead of paying points, they pay you the 20 points.
If you had three Bretonian archers are better than the Squig Gobber.
If it was free, I would say it might be worth it, because think about it, it does take up space on the table and in your deployment area. So the fact that you're paying for it in that way, and its stats are so bad that it averages, what was it? Something like 1.5 wounds a game it's going to dish out. Yeah. So paying anything for it seems like a stretch. So If they're not going to update the rules, it needs to become either free or they need to give you points back if you take it. Or they need to add something that says, like, if you take this character, Squig Gobbers suddenly gain this brand new stat line.
I mean, I call it backtracking. Other people might call it development. But why has Chaos Bloodbound had 3 books? You know what I mean? Whereas Seraphon have only had 1, and now it's out of date. I don't.
I think Stormcast Eternals are on about their 5th book now, if you include all the different chambers.
I mean, I guess because they're a brand new faction, I can see that. I don't know. We're on a journey with them, aren't we? But it takes me a couple of years to just get into stuff, because I'm still painting hundreds of models. So I can see why Games Workshop do it, because they're bringing in new people all the time, aren't they? And I'm more of a hobby man than a gamer.
That is certainly true.
Although the amount of hours I've racked up on Total Warhammer would suggest otherwise.
Although, didn't you say that many of those hours were you asleep at the time and just left your PC on for convenience?
I leave it on all the time, yeah. I mean, it says so far I've played 2,677 hours of Total Warhammer.
That might be... I think that's more hours than I have on any game, definitely.
2,677 divided by 24.
Uh-oh. Rem plus mathematic equations, simple sums. We could be here for a while.
I got... How many do you think that is? Just off the top of your head, because you're a maths genius, aren't you?
Well, I didn't hear the figures exactly, but I'm going to let you work it out, because we want to see how fast you can do it.
It's 111.5, so that's 111... Well, round it up. That's 112 days.
You played 112 days, allegedly,
yeah.
Warhammer. So, in theory, you should be the world's leading expert on that game, shouldn't you?
I'm pretty... Yeah.
I say in theory because I think if we tried to put that into practice, I'm not sure how it would end.
I just you get like, all right, I'm just going to have one more turn and then I'm going to go, and then something happens in the turn that makes you react.
Well, you know how they hook you. It's because they save it when you hit end turn, and then the computer-controlled enemies get to make all their moves, like invade your territory and fight you. Mm-hmm. So you can't just stop there. You have to keep playing because you have to react to that move. Like, how dare that orc just invade my territory? I have to take that back now.
It is brilliant. And then what's more, all the fans are like creating extra content that you can download. Like, I spent a good week playing the Tylean and the Border Princes campaign, it's just all the human factions that you can choose, and they've all got brand new troops and stuff. Like different kind of warrior priests and stuff, and different banners. And now there's a new update coming with the Norscan faction, the official Norscan one, which looks awesome. Wulfric the Wanderer.
It's not long at all until Total War Warhammer 2 hits. I'm very regretful that I haven't had more time to play that game at all yet, because I was planning to do several different video series on it, but I just hadn't had the time.
We've got to do it. We've got to do it. I mean, we had a game, didn't we? You were Bretonians and I was Wood Elves, and I summarily annihilated you.
I don't remember that at all. I remember the game where I was something. Were you dwarves?
Oh, yeah. You were dwarves. No, you were dwarves. I was goblins.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
That was a good laugh, that was, wasn't it? It's just the dwarves are goblins are criminally, like, underpowered.
Is this your opinion after losing that game?
I think my Arachnorak spider kept routing, and then it'd come back on the map and then keep getting chased away. It was like Benny Hill. Yeah, it was a good laugh, man.
Right. We've got 3 things to look at now from the Warhammer community, and then we're going to go to one of your favourite segments, the Nerd Confessions. So before we do that, let's have a look on the old Warhammer community here. So there's some info on the new General's Handbook here. Your first look inside the covers, which would be a terrifying documentary if it was about Mr. Remington Steele, but no, it is actually a book. And you can see the contents here. So for anyone that's very interested in seeing the contents of a book, you can see immediately there that they have allegiance abilities for, this one sounds like, right up your alley, Darkling Covens.
Right.
That's something you would like. Allegiance abilities for all these different factions that maybe didn't have them before. For example, Brayherd, because of course these were things that were brought in, and there's probably other things in there like spells and whatnot. that were brought in when they started bringing out the faction battle tomes, but certain armies just haven't had them or aren't going to get them.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to pick them up in here.
So it's got some new stuff that wasn't in there in the first General's Handbook then.
It should make the old armies a little bit more interesting.
That's cool. I mean, the reason why I'm talking about Total War Warhammer is because obviously it's all Games Workshop products. So why don't they still make some of those available? Because they'd be making a fortune. You know, I know that Games Workshop's profits have been doing really well recently. I mean, I think that's partially got to be with Total War. People buying models up there.
I don't know. I'm sure they had their reasons. I'm sure that the two things were probably not even linked at all. We have this opportunity to have a Total War game made, and also we're blowing the world up and making a new one. I'm pretty sure those would have been decided in different departments, probably.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess some things are definitely just going to disappear. Like like Bretonians, I guess, gone. And they can't keep making good rules for them because they're not available to buy anymore. So it doesn't make sense, does it?
Look at this. The little hint they give you here. They don't show you the whole page because, of course, it's been ripped in a very amateurish fashion. Allegiance abilities dispossessed. Of course, I have quite a vast dispossessed army, so I'd be interested to see what kind of grudges you can get. I can see you can re-roll, but we have no idea what that actually is. Dispossessed are renowned for their... Well, here's a good one. People in the audience, dispossessed are renowned for their what? And then we'll go to those answers in a moment.
The grumpiness.
Well, there's a starter. We're not going to accept grumpiness or beards. And what's this we're looking at here?
Oh, this is cool. So if you get a 1,000-point army, you can have 1 to 4 leaders, up to 2 monsters.
You must have 2 battle line, which is the same as it was. You must have 3 battle line there, 4 there.
Well, that's cool. So your 2,000 point is your average biggish game, isn't it? So you can have 4 behemoths, 4 artillery. I mean, that sounds about right, doesn't it?
And allies as well now.
That's really cool. So before, you couldn't have an allegiance ability if you had different factions. But now you can. Or your allies gain the...
I would imagine your allies do not gain it, but it probably allows your main force to keep your abilities that would have been lost previously in an army that wasn't purely made up of that.
But the allies don't get that ability.
I would imagine the allies would not, because the rule will probably say all the models with this keyword gain this ability, so they wouldn't.
So how do you know what allies can be with what? Is it based on...
Well, there's probably something in there. You probably have to just be in the same Grand Alliance, I would imagine.
All right, so you can have Chaos Warriors and Ratmen, but you wouldn't have Chaos Warriors and Oryx.
Yeah, there might be more info on it out there that they've put out, but I don't see any of it immediately here. There's more information, though, because Grand Alliance Death, one of the factions that are maybe a little bit... They've been, shall we say, neglected over the months, because there hasn't been any new shiny releases for Death in quite a while since the end times. But they're going to get lots of juicy new stuff in here, and they've actually shown you some of it. So let's have a look at this. So you've got some point values for some of the characters in here, which, look at that, Nagash, 800 points. I can't remember how many points he was before, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got some more abilities and such down here. So, Flesh Eater Courts believe themselves to be noble. Of course, eating flesh, it's a noble endeavor. So you can have certain abilities here. For example, reroll dice rolls of 1 when making a run or charge for friendly Flesh Eater Court units. Friendly Flesh Eater is a difficult phrase to say repeatedly over and over again. The Royal Hunt, reroll hit and wound rolls of 1. So the standard kind of stuff you would expect, but it's nice that Death are getting some love. Because even in Death, everyone still needs some love, don't they?
Yeah, so apparently there's not many options with Death. And when you compare how much Death has got compared to Stormcast, it's pretty slim. It's slim pickings. It's very skeletal.
It's very skeletal indeed. It's very bare bones, shall we say. Soulblight artifacts. They show you a few of those here. Let's just have a quick look at one. Sigil of the Sanguine Throne. The symbol on this ring marks the wearer as being of the von Carstein bloodline, and it demands deference from even the loftiest of vampire lords. Once per charge phase, you can re-roll a failed charge. Friendly vampire unit within 12 inches. So, interesting. It's nice they're getting some juicy stuff for death, of course. Before we go on to the next page, I'm just going to look at the chat a second to see what people said Dispossessed are known for. Let's see. They are known for, Mickey Jennifer says luxuriant beards, but we did say no beards. Bazooka J. Rambo says for their drinking. Any more?
Stu Rat says grim.
I'll take it. Authentic Studio says dispossessedness.
Grim resolve. Yeah,
I'll take that. Yeah. Mark Carragher, flatulence after excessive ale. Well, I think a true dispossessed would argue the point that there is no such thing as excessive ale. So I'm not sure about that one. Dave Dog, you're going to have to give us some info on the pronunciation of that name, Mr. Dog. Dispossessed are renowned for their high cupboard difficulties. Yes, they are quite vertically challenged, aren't they?
See, while you're talking about all this, Andy, I'm thinking that some of these factions don't really come under the banner of destruction, chaos.
Well, you're saying they shouldn't do.
No, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you who. I'll give you the who and I'll give you the why. The who is, for instance, Dark Elves. Dark Elves are traditionally evil, but they're not destruction. In fact, the Dark Elves are more like Slanesh followers than anything else, or they're like more piratey. And Kharadron Overlords are more piratey than just simply order or evil. So maybe there should be like a new kind of allegiance called piratey.
Piratey.
Yeah, or like robbers, or just out for self.
Like a scoundrel Grand Alliance.
Yeah.
They could actually call it Grand Alliance Yar, matey.
Yeah, something like that. It's just, potential $1 million idea there.
Well, let's have some audience participation here.
Yeah. Names
of a Grand Alliance for all the piratey factions. There you go. Drop them in while we look at this next page here. So, what we have here is some info on balance in the game, which I know, Mr. Remington, you are very keen on the whole meta and how balanced all the different factions are, and you go to bed at night with just endless graphs of the point values compared to their relative potential killing output and survivability. You have all these different charts going on, pie charts all over the place, comparing the different units. So what are your thoughts about the way they're going to try and balance the game a bit more here?
Well, in what way is it unbalanced?
Well, shall we just have a quick read of what it says here?
I mean, in the near dozen games I've played, I didn't feel anything was overpowered, but then we kind of play more for fun, don't we? We don't have like ultra. I mean, the only thing you could say was overpowered, I guess, that I've ever used would probably be the Thunder Tusk, wasn't it?
That's reasonable.
And then I would say your Belagar was pretty overpowered. Unless you shoot him.
Yeah, but even then, the point values for some of those things do reflect how overpowered you claim they are. But there are some issues that they've looked to resolve here. So first of all, the fourth rule of 1, you cannot re-roll or modify the roll at the start of each battle round that determines who chooses the player that takes the first turn. Now that's very interesting because previously you had abilities that would allow you to modify that. For example, I think it was either, is it like Lord of Change or Fate Weaver or something would allow you to change any dice to a number, whichever number you want. So if you roll a 1, your opponent rolls a 5, you could say, well, I'm changing this to a 6. And then suddenly you would be able to go first in that round. Or second, if it was really that critical for you to go second. Fifth rule of 1, no artifact or power or similar item can be taken more than once in the same army. Which is something that people were building. They were putting together army lists with the same character with just the same item over and over again, I think.
That fourth rule of 1, isn't that... don't the Zinch guys have ways to remodify them dice.
You mean that thing I just described in intimate detail? Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I got lost there when you're talking about rules.
Oh dear.
Sorry.
Classic Remington moment there. If we do highlights of classic Rem moments, that's going in there. It's going right after that time you fell asleep during the show.
That was a beautiful little kip. You know, like when you're like half asleep and you just get like little 5 minutes in and it feels like an hour.
Actually, they kill me almost. I feel really ill if I ever have like a, what do they call it, like a micro sleep. If I ever fall asleep just for a minute and then wake up again, that just makes me feel really ill. So I can't agree with you on that. So extra rules of 1, which is nice. And then battle lines. So battle line units. I was actually watching a video from Mr. MC1 Gamer the other day, and he was talking about battle line units and how it sometimes feels like a tax that you have to pay to take the juicy stuff in the same way you had core units in the old world. And that there are actually going to be certain rules that come in now that allow you to take other units as battle line. For example, there's already certain characters where if you take character X, it unlocks unit Y as battle line. Or if your army is purely, well, one I can think of immediately is if your army is Stormcast Eternal entirely, then you can suddenly take its Judicators that suddenly become battle line. So there's going to be other rules like that which will allow the juicier units to become battle line under certain circumstances. So you won't have to take as much terrible stuff if you have a themed army.
Yeah, it's less boring, isn't it? I mean, when you have a narrow amount of core units, it's like everyone's just going to buy those models, and they're not always the funnest models to paint on mass, are they? So, yeah, that's cool.
Lawrence Jameson says Tzeentch dice never could be used on the turn roll. Is that right? Well, interesting. Let's see. Right. New battle plans. 6 new pitched battles designed to test the tactical skills of players in a variety of situations. That sounds right up your alley, Mr. Remington. So they've obviously got 6 battle plans in the current General's Handbook, basically the scenarios, and they've added in 6 new ones, which means that the old General's Handbook is not obsolete, because you want as many different scenarios as you can get your hands on, really, don't you? So the old General's Handbook, don't just set fire to it, because you'll want those scenarios, probably.
Is there like a scenario where you've got to like kill, kill the king? You know what I mean? Like, there's like just, all you got to do is just like kill one character. Sure, there is.
There are some scenarios around that kind of thing, yeah.
If you had to like just make up a scenario from the top of your head right now, go.
Which armies are in it? Because that would be a contributing factor.
Well, no, it's got to be like a generic scenario.
Just a generic scenario.
Yeah.
Because you'll have noticed that most of my scenarios are very narrative driven. For example, if you bring Cecil the Magical Unicorn with you, then I'll look at the terrain setup, look at Cecil, and think, how can these two be woven together to form some mystical tale of wonder? As far as writing a competitive scenario, I'm not sure I would be the man to do that.
I see. So you like the narrative scenarios. Well,
I get hit with flashes of inspiration when I see the gaming table. When I see just this here, that does nothing for me at all.
Okay, I'll give you a little clue there. A snotling pump wagon.
A scenario based around a snotling pump wagon.
Yes, go.
Okay, there is a snotling pump wagon moving in a diagonal line across the table, and it's carrying vital cargo, but because there are only snotlings, they don't realize how valuable it is. It is actually caviar hatched out of a slan.
Go.
It's got magical properties, but they are just eating it as they go. So the further they get across the table, then the more magic the pump wagon becomes, and it starts having various random effects placed on the pump wagon. And you're going to try and capture it and take the priceless caviar away before they eat it all. But the longer they are in possession of it, the more of it they have, the more
powerful the pump wagon gets.
The effects that affect the pump wagon will be. And you'll roll the dice at the end of each turn, and the table will be modified by how much magical slan caviar there is on the pump wagon.
I love it. And the pump wagon they're like joyriders. and they'll mow down anyone in their way.
Essentially, yes.
Love it.
And it's random where they start as well. And they can do all kinds of weird things depending how much caviar is left. They can teleport around. They can unleash accidental lightning bolts, all kinds of nonsense. They can clone themselves.
All right, I'm going to give you one more, Andy. And this one is more kind of like, it's more GW. A Korgorath.
A Korgorath. So the big corn beastie, that's just the only model. And that you have to have a scenario built around that somehow.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. The Korgorath has been to this. This requires a specific battle mat as well. One of the GW battle mats. A Korgorath has been to the realm of heavens. He found it so grotesque, sickeningly sweet. The harp music went right to his stomach, and he's had a little bit of Nurgle input, in fact, and he has vomited like a giant pizza vomit onto the battlefield. And because of the unusual Nurgle corruption that caused this within Khorne, you might actually call this the vomit ever chosen, because it has multiple chaos gods influencing it. So the forces of chaos most likely are going to want to scoop that up and deliver it to Archaon, aren't they?
Yeah, you lost me on that one, Andy. You did so good with the pump wagon, man.
I think this is a good one, actually. So you have various markers in this big vomit cloud that GW put out very kindly for us on a battle mat. It's only a small battle mat, though, so I think this would be better for skirmish. So each side are going to try and scoop it up and deliver it back to their setup area. Thoughts?
Yeah. I like the Korgorath. What about this, then? The Korgorath, as you know, ingests people, eats people, and then as his body eats them and they decompose, the skulls pop out of its skin. But it's accidentally eaten, or maybe even intentionally, in which case it needs to be punished ferociously. It's eaten a Chaos Lord. And his skull has many blessings of the gods. So they have to capture the Korgorath on a particular turn, which is going to be random, when the Chaos Lord's skull pops out. And they can't do it before or any other time. It has to be on that turn. About that. Genius.
So I think we've both gone for a kind of bodily excretion theme, haven't we? For the Korgorath. So there are some similarities in there. Right. Shall we go through your two favourite segments now?
Oh, yes.
Okay, we're going to start with... In fact, let's do What the Hell Is That first. Do you have your instrument handy?
Always.
And speaking of handy, I can tell you right now that this What the Hell Is That features two miniatures in the current Age of Sigmar range attempting to give each other a fist bump. And you have to identify both of them. And whoever does so will be put into the prize pool for the next prize draw. So take it away, Mr. Remington.
What the hell is that? 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 Only Andy and Remington know.
There you go. Two miniatures going for a fist bump. Which miniatures are they? And you've got quite a few clues going on because there's a little bit more than the fist there. And you can see some nice detail. The one on the left obviously didn't have to be zoomed in quite as far to get that image. One on the right's a little more blurry, and it could be mistaken for like a weasel or an old woman's face.
They're two separate miniatures.
Yes. Attempting to give each other a fist bump.
Different factions, maybe.
They are definitely different factions. So you have to give us specifics here. I want to know exactly which models it is. You can't just say faction. You can't just say, for example, orc, or you couldn't say Auric warrior.
You have to give a proper name.
I'll tell you now, these are both specific characters, both heroes. And if you don't get the right hero, you don't get the potential for winning a prize. So, for example, Dino Titan Edition says the Big Pink Horror and the Ogre Hunter. Nope. Dave Dog says it's a Dirty Lizard and an Ogre Fist. Well, that might be true. but that's not very specific, is it?
It's like they're playing rock, paper, scissors, aren't they? But the guy on the left has just done the finger.
And if anyone...
Andy? Andy? Can anyone hear me? Andy, can you hear me, guys? Oh, no. I don't know what to do. I'm going to have to just play guitar. Can anyone hear me? You can't hear Rem. Can you hear me? Oh, you can hear me. All right, this is great, man. I get to do my own show now. Without, oh no, he's back. No, he's not. I'm still here. So what can we talk about, Andy? Yes. So many things. So many things we can talk about, Andy. He's trying to get back in. His internet went down, apparently. Share the permanent link. I don't know. Oh, God, it's getting technical now. All right, what do I do now? He keeps messaging. See how quick he is? He daren't leave me on my own. Probably a good reason, isn't it? Yeah. All right. Well, I was going to play for you, but that might be a bit boring. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll talk about my new miniatures cabinet, because I went to IKEA and I bought one, and there's a few to choose from. And I bought one. It cost £40, and it has like 3 proper shelves, but it's got like a kind of a shelf on the bottom. So I put some armies out, 1 army per shelf, which was a bit of a cramped situation. And I realized I need 2 more of these display cabinets just for all my armies. That's a bit sad, isn't it? That's like an early nerd confession already. I don't think you can hear me, can you? I'm looking at the chat at the same time. Can you guys hear me? Oh, yes. Oust Andy. Cabinet chat. Right, okay. Oh, it's still on. Right, yeah. So Dino Titan says, can I play you a song? I will play you a little song. And it's a song I wrote. And it goes like this. Doesn't it? It's been so long since I liked anyone, but since I met you, every sentence is a song. So how are my words ever to rhyme without you? Like a scarf is knitted, I feel so entwined, custom made and fitted, with only me in mind. So why am I feeling so cold without you? My friends say, Remington, you're falling in love all alone. So I say, Remington, can I have a little something of my own? My friends say, Remington, you're falling in love all alone. So I say, why can't I have a little something of my own? Yeah, a little something, a little something, of my own. A little something, little something. Hey, thank you guys. It's a little song that I wrote a few years ago. Sounds a bit Disney-ish. Doesn't sound very rock and roll, does it? So, yeah, let's go to the chat. Bazooka J Rambo says, Rem saves the chat. Mickey Jenver says, when is RemCon? Well, when you can all come down to Warhammer World, we'll have RemCon, Mickey. I don't know where you are. You never tell me. 1 minute you're in America, 1 minute you're in a mysterious place in England that you're not allowed, you're not allowed to divulge. So, yeah.